In 1991, researchers examining a 2-million-year-old skull from South Africa noticed something strange. 2 puncture marks, spaced perfectly apart, punched clean through the bone. At first it looked like a weapon wound. Then someone matched the spacing to the exact width of a leopard's lower canines. This wasn't a hunting scene. This was a kill. One of our ancestors. Dragged, bitten, and eaten. The evidence still sitting in the bone. Tens of thousands of centuries later. For most of human history, we weren't the top of the food chain. We were on the menu. That single fact changes how you have to think about everything early humans did. Every decision about where to sleep, how to move through open ground, when to gather water, all of it happened under the constant shadow of animals that could kill a person in seconds. And yet somehow, against odds that should have wiped out a slow, clawless, fangless primate almost immediately, we didn't just survive. We eventually became the ones predators learned to avoid. So what actually got us from prey to something far more dangerous? Start with the obvious disadvantage, because it was severe. Early humans had no claws worth mentioning, no fangs, thin skin that tore easily, and running speed that wouldn't outpace a house cat, let alone a lion. On paper, we should have been an easy meal, no different from any other mid-sized mammal wandering the African savanna. Something had to compensate for a body this poorly equipped for a world full of teeth. The first real answer isn't a weapon. It's a number. Predators generally avoid targets that fight back in groups, because even a successful attack on a group risks serious injury, and injury in the wild is often a death sentence for the predator too. Early humans figured this out, whether through instinct or hard experience, and leaned into it completely. Groups stayed tight. Vulnerable individuals, children especially, moved toward the center, while adults formed a rough, shifting perimeter. This wasn't strategy in the modern sense. It was closer to a rule nobody needed to explain, because the ones who broke it usually didn't survive to raise children who might break it too. Fire changed the equation entirely, and not gradually. Archaeological evidence from Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa shows controlled fire use dating back roughly 1 million years, among the earliest confirmed examples anywhere on the planet. Large predators, almost universally, show strong avoidance behavior around open flame, a fear response deeply embedded across most mammal species. For early humans, that single discovery didn't just provide warmth. It provided something closer to a force field, a perimeter predators simply wouldn't cross, transforming exposed, vulnerable campsites into something resembling actual safety for the first time in the species' history. But fire alone didn't solve the problem during the day, out in open terrain, away from camp. That required a completely different kind of defense, one built not from flame, but from throwing. Humans possess a genuinely unusual shoulder structure, one that allows for a whip-like throwing motion almost no other animal on Earth can replicate with comparable speed or accuracy. Researchers studying this anatomy have pointed out that this throwing ability likely evolved specifically for hunting and defense, letting early humans strike from a distance that kept teeth and claws out of range entirely. A sharpened stone, a hardened wooden spear, thrown hard and accurately from 10 or 15 feet away, turned a hopeless close-quarters fight into a survivable exchange. Distance became a weapon long before metal ever did. And then there's the strategy almost nobody expects. Sound. Loud, coordinated, deliberately chaotic noise. Studies on predator behavior show that sudden, unfamiliar, overwhelming sound often triggers a strong startle and retreat response, even in apex predators otherwise unafraid of much of anything. Some anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have documented exactly this tactic still in use, shouting, clapping, banging tools together in unison to drive off large cats and hyenas without ever making physical contact. It's not brute strength. It's psychological disruption, exploiting a weakness fear itself creates in predators that rely heavily on stealth and surprise. None of this made early humans safe, not by any modern definition. Fossil evidence from multiple sites across Africa and Europe shows clear predation marks on human remains stretching across enormous spans of time, proof that animal attacks remained a real, recurring cause of death for hundreds of thousands of years, not some rare, forgotten threat confined to the earliest chapters of our history. Survival wasn't a switch that flipped once fire, or throwing, or group behavior appeared. It was a slow, uneven improvement, one advantage stacked carefully on top of another, still leaving plenty of room for tragedy along the way. What's genuinely remarkable is what all of this eventually added up to. Not a single invention, not one clever trick that solved the predator problem outright, but a layered system, fire for the night, distance weapons for open ground, group cohesion as a constant baseline, and sound as a last resort deterrent when everything else failed. Each piece covered a gap the others couldn't, built up gradually across dozens of thousands of generations, tested against real consequences every single time it failed. And somewhere in that long, brutal accumulation, something extraordinary happened. The relationship flipped. Predators that once treated early humans as easy, unremarkable prey started over time to actively avoid us instead. Not because we grew claws or fangs or outran anything faster than before, because we built something predators had never encountered in prey before: coordination, tools that struck from a distance, and fire that turned darkness itself into defended territory. Which leaves something worth remembering the next time you walk past a locked door without a second thought, or glance at a porch light and feel nothing but mild indifference. That casual safety, the kind modern life makes almost invisible, was built slowly, painfully, over an almost unimaginable stretch of time, by ancestors who had absolutely no guarantee any of it would work. They just kept trying anyway, generation after generation, until the animals that once hunted us learned, permanently, to leave us alone.